We're live and recording, just so everybody is aware. Don't say anything offside.
Okay, got it.
Try to avoid saying anything like that. Yeah.
What's this fancy platform you guys got running here? This isn't the normal Zoom I'm used to.
Riverside FM is it's a solid like podcasting platform. It's a big time podcast, so we need big time tools.
We need the best gear. Yeah.
Well, you guys are making me nervous. Kevin's got the pro camera with like the real depth of field going. You've got some crazy microphone.
I need a better setup for this, though. It's been a running joke this for like the last year and a half that I have this stupid stand, but Kevin actually looks more real on camera than he does in real life. I've seen him. It's
too bad I just look like this. Other than that, I'm really high fidelity. Just you gotta work with what you got.
High five.
You guys look pro. You look sharp. So that's like 90%.
We need that, Alex. When you're not pro, you need to look.
Does not matter. Yeah.
You need to look extra pro. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. So if we look good to all 8 listeners, then everybody's going to think this is legit.
Yeah. Our moms will be proud.
and our wives.
Yeah.
How's the show going so far? You guys building the following, and is this?
We're supposed to be asking you the questions. We're supposed to be asking you the questions, Alex.
I wasn't prepared for this. I didn't have a PR. I haven't talked to my PR person about this yet. Podcast growth is steady. All follower base is growing. We're getting some good engagement. People seem to listen despite it being me and Kevin. So that's pretty cool.
That's why we're trying to bring in smart guests, like you, Alex, and or at least people who look smart.
Yeah, we need people cooler than ourselves to make this cooler. And it's a low bar, but we've got some cool people, and you're up here.
Well, speaking
I'm honored
of cool,
you trust me with speaking here.
We do.
So looking good, sounding sharp.
You want me to reframe here? Or?
No, you're framed up. You're good.
Okay.
You can put it down a little. Okay, your head, so you're on the same plane as us. There you go. Look at you.
There you go. Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. Nice.
Just
I was a video
happen.
production major for the journalism school in college, so
should have stuck with it.
You went to journalism school,
about video.
Yeah.
Do you know I was in PR for like the first 9 years of my career, so I was kind of on the flip side of that coin. Yeah, and then the reason why I left PR is because obviously as journalism changed and social media gave everybody access to news for free, and nobody wanted to pay for it, and they had to start laying off journalists. Then all of PR became just influencers and pay for play, and my whole job was becoming hey, just go wrangle that influencer for 6 social posts. And I was like, dude, this is not what I got into this for.
You're there was no class on this. Yeah.
Yeah, I to be fair, I dropped out of university and took an internship and just went with it. But I was I liked the journalism side of PR, and then that started to go away, and I was like, this isn't fun. I can't even say influencers without sweating a little. So it's a lucky thing I met Kevin, and he kind of.
I saved him. I brought him. As they say, misery loves company, and I found him and brought him into the industry, which we all love, as everyone in the industry does.
Yeah.
So, Alex Hughes, it's great to have you on the podcast. We've known each other and worked together for, I guess, a couple of years now. And you're kind of one of those people, you fly under the radar, but you've got a good reputation, as far as I can tell, in the industry, a good little brand you built for yourself. And from our discussions, you started CENTRL with the mission of just being cool, having a cool space to work. And you had one location and you worked in it. And are you in that? Is this the location that you're in now?
Yeah.
This is the one?
Yeah, back from 2014. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe you could just give us a little kind of origin story. You started off with that location. How did you end up in that location? What was the deal? And then we'll transfer to how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, I kind of got bullied into co-working, or dared into it. So I was at this property. I was a real estate broker, like you were saying, for 15 years. We had built worked primarily in the Pearl District in Portland, which if you don't know Portland, it was urban renewal district, and at the time was starting to become the model for small scale urban renewal, not these massive downtown districts, but intimate urban neighborhoods repurposed from old crusty buildings and stuff that no one wanted. And we sold, condos, brought in retailers, built office space, and then would try to bring in the tenants and the residents to really make it a vibrant neighborhood. And we had a building, this building we're in, that was, we thought, one of the best buildings like in the neighborhood, in the center of Main and Main, right where all the loading docks are, is catty corner from Wyden and Kennedy, which is the big ad agency. And they were one of the first pioneers in the district. And we had leased the retail really quickly. We had leased part of the office really quickly. And we still had about half the building that we would lease, and then something would happen, like a black swan event with, ad agency had it, and then they lost their big account, right when they were starting their build out. And then we had a software company that leased it, and then they went bankrupt the day the lease signing. And we just kept having bad luck at the property. And we're like, shit, we can't, how do we lease this thing? And at the same time, I had my, sign on the building, like the old school real estate signs and the phone number. And all the calls, all of them were from small groups needing, small temporary space, 1 to 10 people. Mostly started out with startups, and, what you typically expect in co-working, solopreneurs. And then it started to escalate into these larger and larger companies that needed short-term flexible space. So we told the owner, said, hey, we've got to figure it out. This is how you're going to lease your building. This is the best way to monetize it. It doesn't subdivide well if you do traditional suites, but you should check out this co-working thing. It's pretty cool. There's some, serious operators in New York. WeWork was, had multiple locations at the time, just starting to expand to San Francisco and Seattle. Like, let's talk to these guys. We'll find someone else in New York and we'll get them to rent the space. And went through and started talking to all of them and quickly realized, like, well, wouldn't really do it like that. Like, we were so hands-on with the neighborhood that we wanted to be hands-on with what the co-working space was, but realized that wasn't going to happen if we brought in, a tenant and just calling their own shots. So we told the owner, like, this is what you should do. Here's the plans. Here's the business plan. Here's the architect's number. This is what it looks like. Here's actually the first tenants that are interested, members that are interested in renting space. We had Nike teed up for, their World Cup team. We had, serious groups who were like, this is real. Like, this is going to be great for you. And he said, you seem so confident about this. Like, you should do it. You should do it yourself. He's like, I'll rent you the space, really good deal. And you should go for it. If not, you must not really believe in the concept.
Wow.
It's like, really put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did the first one. We were right, by the way. We filled it up right away. A big success. And then we said, great, perfect. Let's go on with life. Like, let's go to the next building. Like, we just kept going, with brokerage. And then 6 months later, get a call from another building owner on the other side of the river going through the exact same thing we were. Then, we walked them through the whole thing, said, here's how we did it. Here's the stuff. Here's the blueprint. Here's the software. Here's, use the same architect. Here's our contractor. Like, go for it. And they came back and said the same thing. Like, thanks for telling us everything about this business and everything about how to operate one. We don't want to do it. Will you do it for us? So got talked into doing a second one. Then it came up again. That was a lease. Yeah. Lease again. Because that's all anyone knew at the time. Like, get a good deal on a lease and arbitrage it. Then it came up again. And then we had 3 locations. And it's like, I guess we're a co-working operator.
Were you still a broker at the same time as 3?
I was still brokering. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And, they were all like a mile apart from each other in Portland. Super easy to get to all of them. I'd work out of them, most of the day. And just work, there's a lot of cross traffic in what we were doing still on the brokerage side. And I was starting to transition into, doing more capital markets and selling, portfolios. So it was kind of heavy lift and then, quiet for a while. And it just kind of worked out. And then we got to a crossroad where I was either going to go work at a big brokerage firm And, the two options are move to Seattle or San Francisco, or, keep going on this co-working thing. And the only thing to really grow it outside of 3 locations in Portland, Oregon, was to go to another city. So said, let's go to Seattle, I guess. That's the logical progression from Portland, at the time, is you go to the big city, which was, the closest one is Seattle. Didn't consider San Francisco, didn't consider LA at all. Just those seemed too big, too big, too far. Then trying to go to Seattle and lease space in like 2017, 2018 was not possible. I figured out. All the tech companies are going crazy. Amazon, they would build like a 500,000 square foot building, totally empty, all finished, pulling the construction fence down, like perfect. How about the second floor here? And like, oh no, we're going to lease to Amazon. And a week later, you'd read the whole building was, master leased by Amazon. So you couldn't really lease space at all. Kind of fell on our face a few times in Seattle, and then got a random phone call from Jamestown Development. They had just bought their first office project in LA. They said they want to kickstart leasing with activating the building with flexible office. They had worked with other operators before, some of the larger operators. They had conflicts, at this one for locations too close by, and, talked us into growing, to what seemed like too large of a city at the time, but, gave us our first chance to go be competitive and, market like that.
Was it,
so then we grew with James. Oh, God.
I was to say, was it central from location one, or did you kind of like build one and then like, did you add the brand to it as it grew? Like, was it always central and expanded to 3, or was it something first and then became central as it expanded?
We were really lucky where a good friend of mine who was in branding, he had worked for agency and was going to go work for a healthcare, tech healthcare startup. And he had this 3-month window where he didn't have anything to do. And I had floated the idea by him of just like, hey, this is what we're doing. We're just doing this one location. And Portland is a market where a brand, at the time, really, really critical. A lot of companies even come to Portland to test out new products just because everyone's hypercritical of like what the brand is, what the product is. Like, will tell you their opinion of, what you're doing. And, it's a great way to get immediate feedback, but you have to have a really solid brand. Immediately, we were just going to do the half-ass approach, of just pick a name. Let's just like in the middle of the night, one of us will start to do some graphic design and call it a day. Steve immediately, who was doing the branding work for us, he was like, no, that's terrible idea. This is how to do it. He took us through this whole branding exercise, told him, hey, this is way overkill. We just got the one spot, man. And he really took control of it and said, let's do it right from the beginning. And just, it's not going to do you any harm to, have this really solid brand. So we leaned into that and had it from the very beginning. It's evolved a little over the years, but we invested the time early on, and glad we did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I know we want to talk about brand at some point, but I don't want to
Let's come back to brand. I want to continue with this. I want to continue with the story. So Jamestown, was that your first management agreement, or was that in LA, or was that a lease also?
That was the first time. It was a management agreement in spirit, and it was simulated inside of a lease. And that's when we started like tinkering with, the mechanics and the vehicle for, being able to do these management agreements, and understanding understanding where, their pinch points were as a REIT that, they owned the building with, and it still had to be in a lease form and still had to have some structure to it. And at the end of the day, they knew like it was all, we're going to perform or not. And they were going to be the first phone call if we weren't, performing exactly like the lease said. So, So that was really step one, of the evolution of being able to do these management agreements.
And now you're all management agreements now at this point? You've converted, or do you still have a couple
Yeah.
lingering leases?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. We went back in time and we erased our mistakes, and everything's on, a full blown management agreement, or, a rev share, or some kind of modified management agreement inside of a lease.
And when did that
Yeah.
happen?
Flexible rent that reflects the revenues at the property.
Right. And how did that happen? So I think this is more of a, last decade phenomenon, I guess, kind of, but like, did you hear someone talking about management agreements, or did you just innovate your way into it and figure it out like a lot of people did?
We uh we had raised some money, over the years to do these, new locations and invest in the brand and invest in that, start just like slowly build a platform, instead of just, really hacking everything together from the beginning. So we've done several rounds of funding, brought on some friends and family, but they're very sophisticated friends and family. One of our partners that we brought on, was an attorney, and he'd specialized in hotel management agreements.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
One of the other friends that he brought along was an attorney that also handled the bankruptcy for one of the largest operators in the world when they did bankruptcy restructuring.
Hmm.
So they brought this sophistication, even though they're, friends and family, they brought this sophistication of what happens at the other end of this and what you need to do from the very beginning. So, certain things evolve, and then certain things you got to set in your DNA, from the beginning or as early as possible. And said, if you don't do it this way, you know, it could be easier at different stages, but at the end of it, it's going to be a real problem. So that's just driven us, from, you know, the fourth location, on, and then gone backwards, wherever we can to get everything, programmed to that idea.
Interesting. So, I mean, it's awesome that you innovated into something that other parts of the market also figured out at some point and is now, I guess, a growing and a pretty large part of the industry. And
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, like we're doing all this, like we're thinking about it. You start to hear other operators, oh, I'm doing a management agreement, or oh, I did this one, setting it up like a hotel. So yeah, everyone was kind of like trying, to figure that out a little bit. Some people said, you know, didn't care about it, didn't want to figure it out, and doing, works great for them, in their markets on a lease. And then, yeah, there's been, as I compare notes to other operators that have variable agreements, they all are start to, descend on the same thing more or less. So,
right. And so now you're 11 locations, if my memory serves.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're building the 11th one now, and yeah, close on the 12th.
That's awesome. So,
That's
and
awesome.
what's been the same, I guess, like so I remember we've talked about this before, but you're in the beginning, you're like, we just want to create a space that's cool. Right. And like, that's kind of the North Star. And if it's cool and it's a place you just enjoy being in, everything else works out. Has that still remained true today? Has your North Star from just a general aspirational, what is it? What do we want this feeling? What do we want this thing to be? Stayed the same, or is it evolved, or like where's your head at now in terms of your North Star for the business?
Yeah, I mean, for better or for worse, we've never. So, like the first three, none of them look the same. They all look like radically different. If there's three that look different, the most different, it's those three. I mean, the one I'm in now, it's like super industrial, really raw. They called it industrial chic at the time. Our second one, is all glass, really, minimalist. And then our third one, we got lots of wood. We, perfected this wood like storefront system, that's a big pain in the ass to build. And we just kept iterating on, these different things. It wasn't like, hey, let's get a look and let's get brand standards for the physical space and let's just repeat that over and over again. We really wanted to just do something different that was reflective of the times, reflective of the neighborhood, of the building that we were in, and then just keep trying new things and see like what works and what doesn't work. And what holds up over time, what people care about, what they don't care about. And then, we've started to grab like a few of those things, and take the best of, and hopefully like learn and put together like the best components, in our new ones, but it still keeps changing. Um, and, when we would look at the first ones, when we would, try to decide is this going to be a good location or bad location, is we just kept coming back to like, what where do we want to work? Would we work in it? And is it cool? Like, like you're saying, because office is not cool for the most part. It's super functional. It's super boring. It's reverse engineered from, you know, from
Spreadsheet.
spreadsheets and lenders and institutional owners. And like, I feel like a lot of them, they don't really ask like until one of the later stages, like what do people want and who's our customer? What do they want? But yeah, very, very boring product for the most part in general. So yeah, just trying to make it different, trying to make it the place we'd want to work.
Do you find that I feel like we talk a lot about the market and the brand and that influence on who's occupying the space. Do you find that there's variance between the different locations? Like does the industrial chic appeal to a different kind of category of member than you might get at the one that's all glass? Or is it kind of just people love the brand, they love what you guys do? I'm always curious, like if there's the different vibe of the building brings in a different type of, different type of person.
Yeah, I mean, definitely to some degree, I think. We have in Portland, we recently had a group of attorneys. I was doing a satellite office. It was 10 attorneys, some of them from, New York, some from San Francisco. They're setting up shop in Portland. And yeah, they went and toured all three. Hey, show us all three. Salesperson, took them around to all of them. And I knew, I was like, I know exactly where these guys are going to go. And then, it's where they ended at our West End, property, which is the third one we built in Portland. It's really polished. It's got, great creative feel to it, but it's definitely the most professional one, we have. It's probably not going to get, a startup, tech company, going into that space. So, but yeah, I have been surprised. I know you guys are marketers, but brand doesn't rule all. We have, still like the importance of location, the importance of price, the importance of the basic offering, and how, that much influences, so many, a big part of the decision making process for them. So,
yeah.
And so you have quite a wide range of clients now, right? So some of your more recent locations are more enterprise heavy, and some of your roots, and including some of your current like your newer locations, also still have individuals, startups, funded companies, banks. I mean, you're really across the spectrum in terms of who your customer is. And yet there is this through line of there's this general sense of there's a kind of there's a vibe, people talk about it. You hear the salespeople talking about what people are picking up, and members are saying things. And so, how have you been able to maintain a through line when the customer group is so different? When you have it, and especially if some of your locations it's largely enterprise, but some of them are all mixed in one area. How are you able to manage that culture?
It's organic now. I mean, we don't manage it at all currently. And I think it's because at the very beginning, I mean, even at the Pearl and just with the employees, and the people that were selling the first space is, we treated it like when we did the Pearl, a lot of it was we weren't conscious of. It was just like what we were doing in the neighborhood. And then it just kind of translated naturally into like everything we said and everything we did. And, a big part of it, in retail is, what the lineup is. Like you don't want to have all of the same, bunch of sandwich shops. Like that would not be good. And when I toured a lot of the co-working spaces in New York at the time, they were very niche of like, this one's for the designers. This one's for the tech group. This one's, for this. This was the fashion, co-working space. And those were great for some reasons where you'd be around people in your specific industry. You'd ask, it was a great icebreaker for, go to happy hour there and everyone was doing the exact same thing. But then it didn't give you any kind of view into other industries or other size companies. And when we were doing the Pearl, we went out of our way to get some established companies. Like some were starting to come in, but it was a big flood of startups. And we really wanted to have some established companies. We had Nordic Semiconductor that, wasn't really interested in renting space from us. But they needed office space, they needed it temporary, and we gave them a sweetheart deal below what we were leasing, to other customers to just come into the space. And they quickly realized, like in the first week of being here, like they loved the energy of all of the startups that we had. And then vice versa, all these startups loved the exposure to these larger enterprise, like, kind of seeing, it's like a Montessori school, like having mixed age groups, like, and seeing other kids in development, different stages of development, like stimulates everyone. And, and we just started leaning into that more of like, we have to get some, we have to get a law firm in. We didn't have, we had a tagline that we would not lease to law firms originally. And, long leases are for lawyers. It was like one of our, signs we put up on the building. And then we were like, we have to get some law firms in here. We have to get some professional services. And, it really helped just kind of build this ecosystem of, great cross section of industry, people of different age groups, people from different walks of life, and, just made the community a lot more interesting than, a bunch of tech dudes, or a bunch of people in fashion or a bunch of just professional services. So that was just like from the very beginning, like we really did that. And then second one is easier, third one is easier. And then we don't really have to talk about it after that. Just kind of happens. And when we asked like, the larger customers to come in now, like you're saying in some of our LA properties, we're like, why do you want to be here? They say the vibe, say, oh, it's the vibe, it's the vibe. But what I really think they're meaning is that energy from the younger stage companies. And then vice versa, the younger stage companies love a lot more than I ever thought, love being around, the bigger corporations. So
long leases are for lawyers. That's funny.
Yeah.
And then just kidding.
Yeah, we regret that statement.
Yeah, we'd like to publicly retract that one.
Yeah. So do you think enterprise is going to be a bigger part of your future, or is it going to continue to be a mix? Like, or is it just kind of, let's see where opportunities crop up and then decide, is it a fit for you culturally? Does the building kind of, has the potential to be as cool as your other locations, whatever that means for the market? But yeah, is enterprise going to be a bigger part?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it has to be. I mean, definitely like a flex office is going to grow to anywhere near, what everyone has forecast over the years is it needs to be bigger spaces for bigger teams. And, same thing where it doesn't really make sense for a co-working operator on, a lease to have, these big chunks of spaces because, when the cost of vacancy is like very, very high, if, you have any kind of churn, even with those. And, landlords, have the demand to service, large teams that need, a flexible office solution. And every time, we're looking at a new location, the first thing, we're looking for is eventually, like once you get going with the co-working platform, at the property or in the area, like what is available for being able to do, that enterprise space.
So you're seeing that. So that's an interesting insight just in terms of growth. The growth is not going to come from more small businesses joining co-working. It seems like the real significant growth that everyone's been talking about, I think 20 or 30% of commercial real estate is projected to be flexible by, I think, 2030, although that number may change and those dates may change and whatever. But So it's interesting to hear that. And are you preparing? I know we've done work kind of building more of a platform for enterprise clients, and you're doing, do you want to speak to any of the other activities you're doing generally to make yourself more demonstrably prepared for that customer segment?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's on the physical like deployment of it, with being able to custom tailor, the space to different groups. They all have different requirements. Some are all running on Wi-Fi. Some are all hardwired. Some, want sit stand desk. Some want all this, custom furniture done. Like, it's still a lot of the things they want that you typically set up for a 7 to 10 year, arrangement with someone, where, they're just staying for 1 to 3 years. And so finding ways to, efficiently deploy the offering so that it makes sense, to package it up and sell it to the customer. And then also for an operator to be able to cost effectively run it for a landlord. So yeah, just the physical, the physical deployment is, kind of the big thing. We've been investing in the system and the structure and, how to do things faster and faster. Because these large groups, they look at it and they want to move in. Everything's accelerated. Like, they don't want to move in 6 months. They want to move in like on Thursday.
Wow. You're seeing that even in the big guys.
Yeah. Hopefully we have like a month, maybe 2 months, but still in real estate, world, that's pretty quick. So.
Yeah. Taylor, do you want to ask some questions? You got a smile on your face.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want questions up your sleeve. Take it over from here, man. You just jump right in, because otherwise I'm just going to keep grilling Alex, and you're going to be just like an active participant in the popcorn out.
I just smile and nod and go along with it. Some of the stuff that I was curious about, because I found it really interesting in terms of like before you started your first location, you were actively building the neighborhood, and then you've now remained in the neighborhood as an active element of it. But then you've also expanded into multiple other states. So I'm always curious in terms of, the states on the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California are similar in a lot of ways, but also super different in a lot of ways. So how have you found that kind of broadening into multiple markets? Have you had to tailor the approach to cater to the different markets while still remaining kind of consistent across the brand? Kevin smirks at me when I ask these questions.
Every time he says Taylor, I just love it.
By the way, I just like to point out that Alex also said tailoring before, so I didn't even open this door.
I didn't notice that. I let him off the hook. He doesn't always say it, but it's funny every time.
I got to start when we're recording these. I got to just like cover Kev's face, because I'll be asking a question and he's giving me like a smirk, and then I get sidetracked and then I babble because I'm half thinking about what he's laughing at, and I'm trying to get my question out.
Sorry to derail.
No, that's okay.
A little sticky. Yeah, I got a little sticky.
He can edit me out in post. It's fine.
I'll get a sticky note and just put a little smiley face, 2 dots in a mouth, and just cover him right up. This will be way smoother.
It's a good idea, actually. Yeah.
I digress.
So you're talking about the cultural difference or just the general approach, Taylor?
Yeah. I mean, because each of those 3 states is unique in ways and similar in others. So I'm curious as to like how the approach rolls out across multiple states in terms of marketing and finding the right people and offering the right product.
Well, we just have to make sure we've got a really good marketing team we're working with, and then let them worry about all of that.
Checks in the mail.
No, it's I mean, we're still figuring it out with I think the big thing about, Los Angeles, versus Portland is just how much farther the reach is, than everything you think about in Portland, which is just a, tight area. And, the big thing that really like teed us off early, saw little signs of it in Portland and we're able to just apply it with steroids in LA is, when we had 2 or 3 locations, especially like with the neighborhood approach, we got to have flexible office like in the neighborhood for all these people that live in the neighborhood. Well, we did our first survey and we found that 90% of our members that we had built this location like with the neighborhood in mind, 90% of our members didn't live in the zip code of the location. And, they were coming from all parts of the city to, be in a centralized location in a cool neighborhood. And, for their business, needed to be in that area. And, so they would come from, 15, 20 minutes away by bike, by car, by transit. Uh, when we're looking in LA, we had used this service called Placer AI, and it will tell you where it's like a real-time demographic map of like everyone who's coming to your address, like where do we think their home is, and like is their with their cell phone data, where are they coming from? And it was this gigantic ring around our location, like sometimes hour and a half away, with people visiting. So, we quickly realized like, hey, we need to stop thinking in this like 1 mile, 3 mile, 5 mile for, marketing this location, but really still a targeted approach, but like we're looking for people a lot farther away than we thought.
Yeah.
Definitely with the brand though. I mean, luckily, like, at the time, like Portland, just had a great brand, everything, just saying you were from Portland, like, especially in LA, would go a long way. So a lot of like the assets of the brand itself, have translated, really well into West Coast markets.
So there's a bit of like a shared West Coast pride in on the West Coast. Is there like, are you feeling like in LA, if you're from Portland, people respect that you're like a West Coast brand?
Like the
I
quirky
think
little
so.
brother.
I like to think so. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we definitely tell people we're West Coast focused. Like there are a lot of people that do travel back and forth, between Seattle, Portland, LA, San Francisco, a little bit with Sacramento. But yeah, I think for the most part, like translates, really well. And leverages is like, okay, yeah, you're not local to but you're a small company, cool left coast,
Left Coast
company. Yeah.
Well, you went into Texas for a hot minute, and then I think COVID was a big reason of maybe why you didn't stay there or something. But you're obviously like, it's not like your brand is synonymous with the West Coast either. Like it sounds like a good story while you're on the West Coast, but I feel like if your brand is more like, let's make this cool for the members and like the place we'd want to work, that plays well into a market. I think you were in Austin before. Do you want to like, was there any kind of translation or Dallas? Sorry. Okay. Was there any translation that needed to happen in terms of when you went down there? Did you change your tone, or was it just, let's run the same playbook and just kind of evolve with the market?
Dallas was a little fling that we had, back, 2018, 2020. We had gotten a lot of traction, in trying to figure out these management agreements. And, we had an audience with, building owner that, was speaking our language, with how these things should be set up, at scale. And, so, well, we don't know Dallas. We don't know the market. We don't know. There's a great operator, that had critical mass, a local operator had critical mass in, most of Texas. And we're like, well, how can we be competitive? I mean, there's already a central office there. And yeah, just kind of jumped into it, not really like analyzing, the whole situation and how we could be, the most successful. And then, that was definitely, we found pricing, had more influence over people's decisions than I thought there. And definitely like if it was priced, low enough, you'd drive out of your way, and, leveraging the neighborhood, leveraging the walkability, wasn't as big of a decision-making factor as we would hope for. So we weren't, I guess our brand did not translate well into that market, or we were just in the wrong spot. And then also it was logistically difficult to operate, for, the West Coast story, is great from, the brand and everything we're talking about. It's also really easy to fly to San Francisco from Portland and vice versa, and to LA and to Seattle. Going to Dallas, it's just operationally, it's a lot more difficult when you're not a national, operator. So.
Well, also speaks to your point about how pricing and location or, product, they're all fundamental. Even some, like people are not as kind of brand loyal. It sounds like it's some of the practical implications. And that seems like it was especially true in Dallas.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to hear you say that.
What is it? Which one is it? Keep Austin weird. I wonder if even just going city by city, like if Austin would have been more receptive to a kind of a different cool brand than Dallas might have been. I haven't spent much time there, but I'm curious if there's any kind of like the sentiment around it is different in those different
Austin
cities.
is the Portland of the South.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of like the parallel that I was drawing there. Again, having not been to Austin, I had no idea. I was going out on a limb.
So far, that's the problem.
Yeah, fair.
Well, so landlords. So you're partnering. I'll just jump in, and then Taylor, you queue up the next one. But you've been partnering with landlords, and I think developing further relationships with the current ones that you have. Are you doing anything proactively to reach these folks, or is it kind of word of mouth? I think your first one maybe fell in your lap a bit, but what's been your strategy kind of generally since then?
We've just been busy with doing multiple locations with the owners that we work with now. So yeah, our outreach is pretty minimal with going out and finding new owners, because we're still looking to do a good job for the owners that we're currently working with. And yeah, we've got one owner. We've got our fourth property under construction on with Jamestown. We just opened up in San Francisco, and the second project with them. And then we have another local family office and fund that we've done location in California and a location in Portland with, and just keep trucking with them. And eventually probably should get a little more strategic and, find more partners. But for the most part, they kept us, as busy as we like right now. So,
and I'm going to follow up with this and then let Taylor take over the next one. But do you think I know we keep coming back to brand, and I know you keep, like, you invested in it kind of right from the beginning or whatever. And, you're talking about how brand is important, but also other factors are important. When attracting landlords, vibe is kind of part of your brand. It's really what are you known for, and what's your promise, and do you fulfill it? But do landlords choose CENTRL because of the brand you're bringing to the table, or do you think that they're doing it, because they like what you've done so far? Like, let's assume you're talking to a landlord. Will that brand be a compelling factor when choosing you, or will it be your backstory, your success?
I think a lot of them, they like the brand a lot. A lot of them do at one point, if not the first thing in the conversation, is like, hey, let's do this, or can we create our own brand and you do it? And and so I think it is important to them of why they're initially like introduced to us, or what are these guys doing? Of what catches their attention. But yeah, a lot of them do, have talked at one point, like, can you white label this, and can we start our own brand? Or, really them just wanting to put their fingerprint on something, with it. And just how we've, really been set up, and kind of the most freeing moment in all of this, and like how to structure deals and how to build out spaces and what to call it, is just acknowledging that the landlord is our customer. So, we have all these, great members, and we, rent space to members, but our CENTRL's customer is the building owner. And that drives everything we do, and how we're set up, how we answer questions. Yeah, you want to call it? Yeah, sure, let's call it whatever you want. We walk through the logistics, like, what are we going to call it? We're going to do a whole brand exercise. We're going to do, set up a whole new site for it. Like, all of our systems, efficiently feed into our technology, and how we book the spaces, and how we do the ad campaigns. And we're already in the market. Like, we're going to have two brands. You can't advertise them together. You could cross sell them, I guess. But if you have the same salespeople, like, the customers would be confused if it's a different name. So that usually, like, they come around to, hey, just continuing with the CENTRL brand is the most efficient and easiest and the best decision, and just going with a known brand in their market. So just the acknowledgement of, like, who our customer is has, usually eliminates, like, all the friction.
Interesting.
Or most of it. Almost
so you've got a good flavor. Everyone wants to put their own fingerprints on it, and then realize how much work it is, and then it makes sense to go with your proven your proven model and your proven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have the physical spaces, are a way for that to be really reflective of what their building is like, how what their brand standards for their portfolio are too. And, usually just the fact that like we're talking to each other about, doing any kind of partnership, we've got an alignment of like the type of office space they're interested in building and then the type of office space that we're able to, market and sell.
On the brand building front too, I mean, I know you were saying how like, brand is huge, but it's not everything. But to build a brand, as these landlords often find out, is like, that's a lot of work, and you've got one established. It's hard to do that. It's hard to build one, and it's hard to keep it and maintain it. But I know that CENTRL's kind of in the midst of a new sort of visual identity exercise and a refresh of the branding. So I'm curious, like, what was the catalyst that made you go like, hey, maybe we should just check this out, give this another think, and what's that kind of looking like in practice, as much as you can talk about it for now?
I think kind of like the physical space is like just, I wouldn't say it's like getting tired of, what we had done before, but it's like, let's just keep turning the chapter here and keep evolving this. And I think, it's good to go through these exercises, every 3 to 5 years, if not sooner, of, what's the next level? What's the next iteration? A lot of times we've doubled back and said, oh, take pieces of, the first brand book, or stuff that we've forgotten about, and apply those to future, developments. But I think it's just good to keep moving. Like, if you say, hey, everything's perfect, I'm not going to touch it ever again. Like, then everything becomes stale, pretty quickly. So, yeah. So just continuing to evolve and have some controlled, my daughter's calling me here. Sorry.
If you got to answer, you do. Yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
That's all, yeah.
Hey, I'm doing a podcast. You need something?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah, you got it. Okay. She needs lunch money.
That is awesome dad mode.
Yeah. Did she think it was cool you're doing a podcast at least, or not really? Does she know what a podcast is?
She's like, oh my God, sorry.
She's like, is it a good podcast? Is it a cool big one? You're like, well, no, not really.
Yeah,
like,
well,
okay, well, I need lunch money.
Yeah.
Hoping not many people see this one.
It's so funny what impresses them and doesn't impress them,
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll see if this one does it. I doubt it.
Yeah.
In fairness, only our moms and our partner wives listen to this podcast, so we know what it's like.
There's a couple people who think it's cool, like a very small like select handful.
Yeah,
I did one a few years ago, and then I put it on in the car when the kids were in, and they were like, "Is that you? That doesn't sound like you." They were so obsessed with the idea that I'm like, "Hey, I talk about you guys in this one, and mention something about them," and then they were just so obsessed with the voice did not sound like me that they just ignored all the content. So
couldn't reconcile the voice without the face attached to it. Like this is something's not right here.
I think this is you. Yeah.
Is this like your AI clone that's jumping on here and talking for you? Oh, that's funny. Well, lunch money.
She's all good. She's got lunch money deployed.
You Venmo'd the money. Good man.
Yeah.
It's the best. I need some lunch money. But yeah, I thought it's interesting the idea of refreshing your, like, kind of evolving the brand as the business evolves too, to make sure, like, as much for the brand itself and the audience as it almost is for you as like a way to keep things like exciting and fresh and moving forward in a way, right? Like,
so good to know you're doing that for those reasons, and it's always good to remain fresh because you do provide a good product and your new locations are shiny. Why shouldn't your brand visual identity be whatever else? It's a good time to revisit who you are, which we've been wrestling with as well. You're at the size now where you're kind of you're going on, you're like 10 going on 100 kind of thing. What is your current challenge today operationally as you scale? And what advice would you give to someone who's maybe a few locations behind you that have helped you go from the previous kind of tipping point from being like a small kind of operator business on the side of your brokerage and then to kind of becoming who you are today?
It's really hard. I don't know if I've already done it or if I haven't done it or if I'm in the middle of doing this, but it's really hard to transition. I mean, I think for any business, but like from being the one that does everything to not doing anything. And I don't mean like not working. I mean like not doing any of the direct interface with the customers, building of the spaces, picking the furniture, picking the making the marketing decisions, like, and, making it as we, bring on more staff to, as the workload increases, on operations side and the sales side and the marketing side and the build out side of not being the one that's really doing the direct work, but directing the people doing the work. So I think that's the hard, and still maintaining like what your vision is and what you want this thing to be and how things executed. So I think
And
that's
that's
the
today.
biggest.
That's your current kind of wrestling with challenge.
Yeah,
as
I'm
opposed
somewhere
to
in that gradient of,
and has that always been true, or is it like, would you give the same advice to someone at 3 locations going on 5 that, to try to figure out how to let go of more of the minutia? Is that the same challenge effectively the whole way through, or is it a different challenge then versus what you're experiencing maybe now?
I would do it sooner than I did, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like we really invested in our brand from the very beginning, and that's paid dividends and helped, let things grow, from there is, should have embraced that idea, probably earlier on. So,
And how do you approach that? How do you approach being able to let go of those details?
man,
I
get deep
didn't
here.
prepare you for this. No.
Yeah.
Spare no details.
It's important. I think what you're going through is going to be 100% what other people are going through, have been through, or about to go through. So how would you go about letting go of that without losing control of the business? If you could just reach into where your mind's at right now.
Man, it's like a deeper spiritual question than a religious
and tell us your religious views as well also.
Yeah, I mean, I think just probably communicating earlier on, like exactly what the big picture is, and then descending on the details rather than just diving right into the details, with everyone that, you work with, from contractors to employees to, to partners. So
Yeah, it must be harder to do that
investing
now.
heavily in the process, early on instead of doing the immediate triage of everything.
It's always hard. It's a challenging place for anyone to be when you've grown a business to allow your role within the business to change, to be what the business needs, and then to have the people to do the things that need to be done. It's like, obviously my business hasn't gone to that scale, but I can envision that the challenge is there in terms of seeing what you do in your business and your contribution to your business evolve to align with what it needs, right?
Yeah, I feel like communication, especially being multi-state operator, multi-location, you've got new staff joining that maybe you haven't even met yet. And so you're kind of, it feels like culture in a space is really driven by staff. So we talk about brand and culture are kind of cousins. And so like you kind of you create an initial culture just by who you are. And then you hire people who have similar, energy or whatever. And then they go on to hire and manage people below them, and then those people below them are creating a culture which is kind of an echo of kind of your vision, I guess. And I guess if you want that echo to reign, you need to almost, and I don't want to put words in your mouth because, like Taylor, I'm a solo operator, but you kind of almost have to reinforce through communication what that sound is to create that echo, to create that team, to create that vibe. Because if you hire the wrong people at a certain level, downstream of that and even surrounding them is always going to change the culture and therefore the feelings that keeps people. So it feels like it's a communication, like your point about communication seems like a good one.
Yeah.
To think about how do I teach something or say something or do something such that subsequent decisions are made easier because you've given them a vision. Would that be accurate? Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I was wondering if that was going to morph into an analogy of some sort, because I don't think you've dropped
one. Did I do one?
I don't know. I wasn't sure if the like it kind of the echo thing, but it like started here and then it became the echo. I was waiting for it to become like a really solid analogy, because I don't think there's been one
it was
today.
Shaping up that way. Yeah, I didn't. I haven't.
Still time.
There's still time. There's only
still time.
Well, we want to respect your time because you are the CEO of an enterprise, a growing multi-location enterprise.
Well, I'm working on not doing anything.
Multi-state.
So, yeah.
True. So clear your schedule. This is it for the rest of the day, folks. We got hours more content coming up after this break.
You can achieve one great thing today. That's all you have to achieve today. And this isn't it.
This would definitely not be it. I mean, yeah, like, so just going forward, what's your vision for the business as you look into the future? Is it continue on this path? It looks like you're breaking more in enterprise, maintaining small business roots and kind of keeping that part of your DNA as a business. Is there any other kind of vision you have for the future for CENTRL and for the industry at large, and your role in it?
Yeah, I mean, I think doing bigger and bigger spaces. And I don't just mean like bigger co-working spaces, but bigger footprints, in portfolios, and, different products too, instead of just, renting recurring office space or just doing meeting rooms and co-working memberships. But, we're starting to experiment with amenity, management, for buildings and interfacing with tenants that aren't our members, but, trying to make the whole building cool and trying to, bring community to, whole building or whole campus. And I know a lot of other operators, have tried over the years. And it's been, we're still searching for like, what is the value? Like, we know what we could do. We know what product we could sell to landlords, and we know, how we could package it. But what really drives value to the tenants at the end of the day, so it's this sustainable operation. And then, getting more and more into larger meeting spaces, conferencing space, that keeps coming up as something that there's been a lot of requests from building owners, to execute similar to how we do co-working space, where it's tailored to the building and has more of a tenant first approach to it rather than a conference center operator, coming in and just running their own business. But how is it integrated into all of the amenities of a project with the mentality of servicing the existing tenants first?
So it seems like building activation and amenities kind of management both at the same time. So like the whole building benefits from you being there and kind of making the whole building more valuable, I guess, through amenities and experience.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
So making them bigger, and then kind of not growing the wall, the perimeter of the walls, but tearing down the walls and having our operation, kind of flow throughout property.
Such an interesting mindset too, because it's the flexible industry in a way, and it's in the commercial real estate space. So why not, and amenities are such a flexible business, whether it's events or meeting rooms, and then there's activity events, right? Like, wouldn't it be great to have a pickleball court under your jurisdiction at one of your locations, right? Wink, wink.
Oh yeah.
So it's a smart strategic move, and there's lots of room for co-working operators like you to do that, right? To move into how else can we flexibly integrate with the business, with the building, and just create an ecosystem that surrounds it. Even if they're traditionally leasing out other floors, how do we plug it in so that you're kind of the beating heart? You're the DJ playing the music for the whole building, Taylor, right? That's an analogy for you.
There you go.
And
I was also going to say, Alex had a good analogy there too, in terms of not just expanding the walls, but tearing them down. So I was like, that's
fine.
You got the one up on you.
Whatever.
Got the one up on you on that one. That's what you get.
Taylor,
That's what you get for smirking at my questions.
He'll never. I live rent free in this guy's head all the time, and every now and then he just hits me with a good one and shows me my place.
It's a sad place to be.
Taylor, you want to bring us home? I think we, in the interest, even though Alex doesn't do anything anymore, he probably has other things he doesn't want to do. So, why don't you bring us home?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, Alex, for joining us, and appreciate you taking the time to speak to both of our listeners. If you want to learn more about Alex and CENTRL Office, what's the best place to check you out? Online, centraloffice.com. What else?
No A.
No way.
People...
No way.
No way.
No A. CENTRL Office.com. Anything else people should know? Anywhere else people can find you that we're not thinking of?
Yeah, where should landlords go to find you so they can hire you to bring their space to life?
Portland, LA, San Francisco, or Seattle will be roaming around one of those neighborhoods.
Are you on LinkedIn also, or no?
I think so. I've been advised by our marketing team to step up our LinkedIn presence, including mine.
Yeah. So we'll see you over on LinkedIn.
Or just get Alex at CENTRLoffice.com.
Alex at CENTRLoffice.com. We'll spell that out the right way so the bots can't find you in the description.
If I get any spam, I know who to blame. So
Kevin, for sure. Exclusively,
100%.
hands down, nobody else, only Kevin.
Yeah, that's the usual mode. And then I'll just blame it on Taylor. So it's just a circular thing here. But yeah, seriously, Alex, thanks for joining us. You've got a really cool business. You do have a great reputation. Anyone I've ever spoken to about you speaks like highly of you and just like leans in. And so whatever you're doing it right. And except for working with us. But aside from that, whatever you're doing, it seems like you're doing it right. So kudos to you and your team, and excited to bring you on when you hit 20 locations. You can give us some fresh new advice about how to do nothing as a 20 location operator. Deal?
Deal.
We'll see you then. Thanks.
Love it.
Thanks for having me. I'll make sure and subscribe so I can boost your analytics, by 50%, grow your
we appreciate that.
Audience.
We need it. That was the reason for that. We didn't want to ask on the line, but we appreciate that.
People helping people. It's powerful stuff. Thanks, guys.
See you at 20.
Thanks, guys.